Welcome back to the She Thrives Influential Women podcast. I am your host, Lori Murphy, and I am an empowerment coach for women, public speaker, as well as an award-winning published co-author and columnist to the Rochester Women Online magazine. And it is so good to be here with all of you today. I have another incredible and highly influential woman to introduce you all today. But first, let's dive in a little bit to the purpose of this podcast. As I mentioned, I'm an empowerment coach for women, and my path in recovery from alcoholism has led me down this path of being a guide to women to help them live up to their fullest potential by unblocking their darkest moments, unleashing their truest potential so that they can thrive in all areas of their lives. And the purpose of this podcast is to bring you positive influence, whether it's through, health and wellness tips, personal growth and development, or just hearing stories from other incredible women and how they overcome some of their struggles to get to where they are today. And if you are new to this podcast, thank you so much for being here. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button so that you never miss another episode and you can continue to get this podcast to spread worldwide for women all over to be influenced positively and to be inspired. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Tracy Nolan, my latest guest. Tracy is a Fortune 50 senior executive, corporate officer, and board member who is known for guiding significant market share growth and shareholder value for highly regulated where consumer trust is paramount. Tracy is passionate about developing others, especially women in business at all levels. Tracy believes that staying true to her values, developing others to achieve more, settling for nothing less than excellence, all while showing compassion and kindness in her true north. I have had the pleasure of chatting with Tracy before this podcast. She really is just full of just a bright light, full of energy, highly inspiring. I'm so excited to bring her on to the episode today. So without further ado, Tracy, how are you?
Lori, thank you for having me. And I'm so excited to be here because just listening to you, even through this introduction, let alone the conversations we've had, really inspires me because it really feeds my soul to really want to give to others and to help women because we all go through tough times. We all go through that self-doubt, and having the ability to know that others are doing that too, and that we can all be there to help inspire and grow is, what really it does. It feeds my soul, like to be able
Yes,
to give back because boy, we've all had those times that have been tough, right? And
absolutely.
we all are trying to navigate this thing called life, which is not always easy.
Right. 100%. And, it seems like you have, and not even seems like I've been reading your bio just by our conversations, like you have essentially climbed the corporate ladder. And that that takes a lot of risk, a lot of overcoming your own fears. And I'd love to dive into all of that. But first, I'd love to, hear a little bit more. Tell our viewers, you know, who are you? Where are you from? And, how you got here, essentially.
Well, I'm gonna, first of all, for those listeners that are in upstate New York, I grew up in Rochester, New York, and I spent my first 30 years there. I'm going to take you way back because, I thought, as a little girl that I was going to be a teacher and I was going to, have tons of children and have this, this perfect life, right?
Hmm.
With a house and husband and children and teaching. And my life now, like no one, I didn't start by saying, hey, I want to be, a successful senior executive. I did not imagine this is where I'd be. And
Hmm.
even at an early age, I found that not always doing what is expected of you to do. I always seem to be the one doing, like if my family all was into tennis and they were all big at, big athletes, I did the exact opposite. So I always
Uh-huh.
was trying to find my way to do. I took dance where my brothers and sisters all were, top athletes. I went to school at an engineering school right up in at Clarkson University in Potsdam, New York. And my family was like, "Why aren't you going to a liberal arts school? Like, why are you going to this technical school?" And
Hmm.
where the ratio of men to women was 6 to 1. But like, I thought it was a tough school that I got into, and I would learn the most. So I wanted to go there, even knowing I wasn't going to be an engineer, right? Like, so I've
Hmm.
always kind of not always done exactly what others have thought of me, but that's a real hard thing to do in
Right.
today's society, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And so I started and I started in retailing out of school because I needed a new wardrobe when I graduated from college. And I was like, "Hey, I'm trying to interview." So I started working in retail, fell in love with it. And I think what I loved about it was I've always had a feel of wanting to help others.
Hmm.
But I've also had to learn my way about helping myself because I'm one that, grew up taking care of others was like the primary role of what women should do.
Hmm.
I've had to learn is like, that's okay, but you also got to take care of yourself, right?
Right.
And um, people will say, wow, she's a workaholic, or wow, she's like, she just does like she goes. But you know what? I also need that downtime, that important time, right?
Hmm.
For me. And then, through my career, as just, continued to grow, I had people say to me, "Hey, Trace, you're too nice to be, a corporate leader." And I was like, "What do you mean too nice?" Like,
Yeah.
and, like too nice. Well, you care too much about people to lead large groups. And I was like, but I think that's almost more of my secret sauce that I do care, right? And
Yes.
so I can have the ability to be strategic, make tough decisions, take people through hard times, but at the same time, I can have that caring element to remember about that person who has a wife at home who is going through cancer treatment and making
Hmm.
sure I check in on them, right? Like leadership doesn't have to be, or your career doesn't have to be all about, the hard skills. You can
Oh,
bring that
right.
softness
I
into, which has been super helpful for me.
Yeah, I had recently I had a guest on my podcast, Tosca. She's an amazing woman. And so Tosca, what she does is she ended up leaving the corporate world because she found that, a lot of things with management were like you instill fear in your employees to get them to perform. And she had a totally different approach to it and wasn't able to really do what she wanted to do as a leader. And she stepped away from that to create this, to follow her mission, to be able to put it out there and advocate for employees, essentially, and so much more. But when in our conversation, I mean, that was one of the things we really touched on was the importance of having that compassion. What makes us a leader is not the hard, putting your foot down, scaring the staff into, doing what you need them to do. They will perform more when you do have that compassion and care and that good heart to check in on them if a loved one's going through cancer, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's where people get it wrong. They think that because of a title that or who, or they're leading people that they need to tell the people what to do.
Sure.
And that they have to hold them to this strict accountability. I do agree that what I find is, or they just ignore. And I find like people, I always say people don't come to work to fail, right? Like they don't come to work to fail. And
Right.
as a leader, your job is to figure out how to manage in a way or lead the team by casting a shadow of of how you would want to be treated. And I always say, like, how do you want to be treated? And at one point in my life, in my career, I was really tough. Like, I'm not sure why anybody still would want to have worked for me at that time, because I think I was that person, Lori, that was just like, this is all that matters. And then I came to realize that as a woman, I had a secret power, which is I grew up with my mom just, I had a grandfather who was a minister. I had a priest on my dad's side. So we were very caring, compassionate people. And when I wasn't bringing that out in my leadership skills and in my career, I wasn't really moving I wasn't really moving. But when I decided to let me be me,
Hmm.
like show the ability, right? That like I can care. And it's
Yes.
not only and caring, is about knowing what's going on in people's lives. Because we all think too that like everybody doesn't have, like, we don't think about that people have things happening outside of their life when we're at work. What's happening on outside of their life is going to impact how they perform and what they do. And if
Correct.
they know you care, they're going to give you even more, right?
Right.
And they want to understand like what is important to, like, what do they need to do. So many times we also miss that fact, is like telling people, it's okay to tell them this is the expectations of the job, blah blah blah. That's
Hmm.
okay. It's better to be upfront, because then they at least know that you care enough to even give them that, right? So
Yes.
it's really, I think, as I aged into my career, I found the more that I just didn't try to be that hard-nosed leader, that and not focus on people and their feelings and how they care, and what doesn't mean that I don't deliver tough information. As a matter of fact, a lot of times I have to tell people when something's
Hmm.
not going right and that we need to do better. Not everybody likes to hear it, but if they know you care,
Right.
it's a
And
big difference.
if you're in a situation where you have to deliver that type of message to your staff, like, hey, we gotta step it up, right? Like this isn't up to the requirements of, the task or have you. How do you deliver that how do you encourage your staff to step it up?
So I will tell you, as a leader, the first thing, and I say this all the time now, I did not always in my career. I seek to understand the reasons why we may not be doing it versus telling them that we just have to step up. So I would probably start a conversation like, hey, last week wasn't as good of a week from a sales perspective that we had. Let's talk about what it is that's holding us back from getting there. I would want to have that conversation to bring
Love
them
that.
along in it, and then say, okay, so what can we do? And then depending on what they come up with, I may say, no, honestly, I don't think any of that's going to work. This is what I think we need to do.
Hmm.
I need you to buy in with me and try this for X period of time, right? Like
Hmm.
they don't want to be told most people don't want to be told what to do. They want to be part of the solution. We
Correct.
don't take the time, because as leaders, we're looking at, our meetings of 10 hours of meetings in an 8-hour window, and we're worried about what's happening next. And it's being present too, and having, I go way back to any job I've taken on. I mean, I've had staffs of over 20,000 employees working for me, and certainly I can't have those conversations with all of them. But people have always said Trace, what is it that you do? I really start with the basics and know that I can write a strategic plan. I can do all that. But the most important thing is it starts with what I call the 6 success ingredients, which is trust, integrity, commitment, teamwork, execution, and the right people.
Hmm.
And story was Carmen DeFeo, upstate New York, thing called Frontier Cellular, way back in the day that became Verizon. I was running sales, he was running customer service. And I remember we're going to do this culture program, Lori. We were all excited, like, oh, we're going to start this culture program and we're going to get everybody in the company, because we were in the process of being acquired and we knew it was going to be tough. And we thought,
Hmm.
oh, we'll just establish this, make everybody feel good. So Carmen and I, who's such a great cheerleader with me. We put all this together and we're ready. And we said, let's just run it through a group of people first, and then we'll see what they react. And based on how they react, then we'll roll out our posters and our mouse pads and everything else we were going to do with all of the core values in this new culture program. And it was a lesson I learned for my entire life because we got all excited and we're like, yeah, here it is. And they all looked at us and said, so you're going to just put posters on the wall and you're going to do these little name badge things and we're supposed to be bought in. And Carmen and I looked at each other and goes, yeah, we're going to do this. And they turned to us and a brave group said, we don't think the senior team is acting with those core values. So now you're going to
Mm.
ask us to do it? And we both kind of stopped dead and we were like, oh my gosh, they don't trust us. They don't have they don't think we're as committed as we think we are. And it was
Right.
a big eye-opening time like that. When I use the six success ingredients, anytime I take on a new role, I'm like, hey, how do I make sure that the team trusts me? And I trust them. And how do I know they're committed? And how do I know that they think I play well with teamwork? Like I'm part of the team, not just their manager.
Right.
How do I know their commitment? So I go through this, I literally look at Lori at everyone in my direct reports, and I have that mental conversation with myself
Hmm.
because because once they can feel that from me, they're going to open themselves up, and
Right.
those hard conversations are not going to be that hard.
Right.
Without
So,
those, they are hard.
yeah. So it's kind of, so I would love to kind of hear a little bit about, so let's pretend you're starting a new role, you're starting in a new position as a leader, new staff, and you're sensing that they're not trusting you fully. And I know you pull out your method and you have, your strategy to build that trust. So is it essentially like you try to have like a staff meeting and kind of let them get to know you a little bit? Like tell me a little bit about how you approach that a little bit more.
Well, I can tell you that after 20 some odd years in telecommunications, and I'd say I've worked at most of large carriers, so everybody kind of knew me. 2.5 years ago, I took the leap to go into healthcare and work for Humana. And it was the first job since I was out of college that I walked into a new organization and new industry where no one knew who Tracy Nolan was.
Hmm.
I took over a team. And so this is exactly like, Lori, I walked in and I was like, hi, and I'm just starting to go down the path of everything like, hey, we got to do this, and this is how I like this, and hey, tell me about your business. And for the first 2 months, I didn't even realize that they had no background on me. They had no idea who this person was. And I was the first new employee leader at my level that they had had in 15 years.
Wow.
So that trust and building that was something in it. So it starts with ensuring that I seek to understand what they do. It's not just a staff meeting, it's not just a conversation, but it's in the actions that I do. It's remembering to say, hey, Brandy, I see you've been working, on that project for all this time. Please don't, please let's put it away and like not worry about it over the weekend. It's giving people grace and time and
Hmm.
respecting hey, how do you like to work? Right? It's not just coming in and doing it my way, right?
Yes.
And it's also having those one-on-one like leaders say, oh yeah, well, I have one-on-ones every week. Most leaders don't uphold those things. Like
Right.
my calendar, the most important items on my calendar are one-on-ones with individuals. It's roundtables with frontline employees, and it's for me to get to know the business the way they know it. And so it's not for me to micromanage, it's for me to seek to understand what they're facing,
Yeah.
both personally and professionally. And it's work. It's not like the that overnight trust happens or overnight that they have it, but it's no,
Yeah.
it's a work in progress. And just like any relationship, whether it be at work, personal, or that is, that foundation of remembering it's a two-way street. So many times we just think about, oh, that person, yeah, they're great. Do they really think we're great? Like, what have we done to show that respect to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
it's important, super important at work. But I also think it is with family, it's with, the friends that you want and care about. It kind
Mm-hmm.
of works all around.
Now, I'm curious to know if this was an approach and a mindset that you had always had going into leadership roles, or was there a lot of trial and error?
Oh, I definitely think I've always I've a lot of trial, I'd say a lot of trial and error. I would say that though, growing up, because I had this caring, nurturing behavior, right? That was kind of how I was brought up. So I always had that. But I would say that I thought that that wasn't a leadership style that I could bring to the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I felt like I had to be what you envision a corporate executive to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a while, I was not that. And I think I became very frustrated too, as I was, and not as effective. I mean, I have people who have worked for me in the past to now
Mm-hmm.
work for me now and say, oh my gosh, your style's so different, right? And
Yes.
so I think it's honed based on seeing how it's worked. And
Right.
also confidence because you know, people will think, wow, you've accomplished a lot. I've not always been so confident,
Yeah.
right? And that confidence of, thinking through, and this is where being kind to yourself is so important. I've always been hard on rating myself on how I'm doing and what I'm doing. And
Right.
that's tough.
And it sounds like you were able to be like, you're in the situation of in the very early on where you felt like you had to live up to that expectation of the corporate leader. And it's like you kind of dialed back and you're like, is this working for me? Like, how can I be better for the staff? Right. And you made a lot of shifts and gears so that you could be come from a place of leadership, like true leadership. And I'm sure that that came with the cost of like a lot of, the mishaps and the learning experiences, right?
It absolutely did. I mean, I think of times where, I wasn't caring about what people had going on outside their lives, right?
Hmm.
Like I remember a certain time that someone had a birthday party for their 5-year-old and I was like, "Hey, we got this to do tomorrow." And like
Hmm.
didn't even like I expected them to drop everything for this one work scenario because I felt it was that important. I also had leaders who did that to me. I remember very sad story, but I remember when my mom was diagnosed with a brain tumor and only had about 3 months to live and saying to work, "Hey, I need to take time off." And they're like, "Hey, no, you've got this professional role. You can't. You can probably take Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and come back on Sunday night or Monday." I was living in Chicago. She was in upstate New York. And I did that for 3 months every weekend.
Yeah.
I I wasn't allowed to take that time. Now that's not illegal, like I should have been legally able to do it, but I wasn't given my boss didn't allow me to do that. And
Yeah.
I was very much like that at one point in my career.
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe like even as an employee standpoint that it really is the leadership, the management that if an employee is not happy, they're typically not leaving their job because of the money as much as it's that, we're all human beings and we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be understood, and we want to be supported. And if we're not feeling that coming from above, then that's when people get burnt out and worn out. They're striving to get that to be seen and heard and recognized. And when they're not getting that, they finally just throw in the towel and they go elsewhere.
They do, and they should. As far, I always say you have a choice. Like, and I had to learn that too. I mean,
Right.
or I stayed in a role which, for a while I wasn't happy in, and
Hmm.
impacted him personally. My husband's like every day, like, are you really going to stay and do that? And I was feeling the pressure, like, this is the job I have. I need to stay. And,
Hmm.
I try to also let people know that, you know, a job is a two-way street. Now we all need, most of us need to work. So it's not like we can just tomorrow, leave. Now, if
Hmm.
you're in an unsafe environment, absolutely you should do that. But overall, like, I go to work, I wake up and I say to myself, hey, I'm very fortunate because today Humana allows me to come to work and they're fortunate to have me. You have to think of it that way, like it's a two-way street. And when you
Yep.
have leaders who are not um making it a fun place, like, we can work hard, things at work can be super difficult,
Hmm.
but if you can't smile and laugh a little bit, like, what are we doing? Right,
Yeah.
life is way too short for that,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I had health problems. I was, at one point in my life, I had, health stomach issues. I mean, it was stress, right? I had
Yep.
a situation going on. My father had been sick. Work was not fun, and I started having health problems. And I had to make a decision, right? Like, I had to make a decision, what is best for me. And I left a role and I didn't have another role. And I took 5 months and was that scary? Absolutely. But you know what, Lori, I've always ended up better when I've realized that it's about taking care of yourself, or
Absolutely.
and making sure that whatever you're doing, whatever role you have, if you're not having fun majority of the time, and fun can be, I always say, hard things are like puzzles. Like, I try to get people when they're faced with something that feels so critically difficult at
Hmm.
work. It's just like a puzzle. Just think we're a jigsaw puzzle. We're just trying to figure it out. Like, take it away from that personal and kind of put it on the table as a
Yep.
jigsaw puzzle, because then people can see it clearly. And we're not having fun doing it. I don't know why we should continue to do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I work full time in a career in dental, right? I'm in a dental
Yeah.
office, and dental offices are small.
Yeah.
And, I have to say that there have been majority of the time I've walked away from a job, it's because it's not managed properly, or, you know, it can be a very unhealthy atmosphere. I have had dentists yell at me. I have seen them throw instruments. And when you hear those rumors, I mean, I have seen it happen, or they're just rude and disrespectful, and they don't make the work atmosphere fun. They're not seeing you or hearing you as a person, an individual, and you're working hard to get some kind of gratification, or even just to get some kind of appreciation, and you're not getting that. And I feel like I actually was having a conversation with my boss about this the other day, because he even said, he goes, it comes from leadership.
Mhm.
I can't remember how we got on the topic. He goes, I think leadership has a really big role you know, in the staff staying together. And when I heard him say that, I was just like, I'm glad he gets it, you
So,
know.
so true, because again, I don't think a leader's role is to dictate or to tell you what to do. The leader's role is to help people bring out the best in what they can do
Sure.
and to say thank you. Like,
Yes.
I mean, I've had leaders say, "Hey, I'm not really good at that," and when they say that, I'm like, "I wasn't either," but now I make sure that I'm saying thank you much more, almost daily, to at
Hmm.
least, 5 people for their work. You know what?
Yeah.
Because you don't know, like, if someone's coming to present to me, and I know that the presentation didn't start when they walked in the room then. They
Hmm.
probably have been thinking about it and putting something together for a while. Thank
Right.
them for their work because they're trying to please. To your point, it's not always money. Money is important, so don't get me wrong, but the recognition and just feeling heard,
Hmm.
and feeling like you're part of a team can
Yep.
go so far.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I was just recently had an opportunity that came my way. I wasn't even exploring it, looking for a supervisor role in a dental practice, a corporate dental practice. And I would be more of like it was a more of a assistant management. I'd be assisting the office manager. And in my conversation, like some of the questions I asked the person that was doing the interview was, I they saw on my resume that I have a coaching practice. We kind of dove in a little bit on that, but one of the things I said is that part of what I do is empowerment. And I believe in empowerment. I believe in seeing and hearing. And I go, am I going to have that ability to be able to listen to the staff? If I have a staff member that's unhappy and sit down with them and hear what they have to say, empower them, inspire them, and advocate for them, will I have that opportunity? And one of the things they said was, well, you would have to take the lead from the actual manager and how they present it. So it's almost like that kind of gave me a little bit of a, well, if they don't support the staff in the same way I would want to, I could see that being conflicting. Um, and I turned the position down and I could hear the disappointment in his voice because I was just like, this is how my style's going to be. I've been the dental assistant for 23 years. I've worked, I've been in the situation where, I feel this way. And my goal is if you want me to take on the responsibility of developing a culture in the practice where everybody's thriving, I need to be able to do this. And I think he was mind blown by that because I was just like, this is what I have to be able to do in order to make that happen. And I think because it was just like an assistant position role, it was just kind of like, that wasn't the reason I turned it down. I flat out told him I wasn't really in the market of looking to leave where I am. Um, but also the schedule would completely pull me away from the work that I'm passionate about. And I'm not willing to sacrifice that. But if I were to step into a role like that, I feel like I would come from that place like you do, where you're coming from that place of, you know, compassion and caring and sitting down with a staff member and asking, what do you need to be able to thrive?
That is such an important question, and I will tell you, I love the fact that you didn't take that because if you're given a role and you're told this is how you have to act and you're going to only take direction and then pass that direction down, that's not really true leadership, right? Like you
Exactly.
need to be, and you need to be, the thing I've really learned is being really true to myself and realizing that I know how to get people to thrive. And
Hmm.
it's not a box that somebody hands you and says, this is how you lead. It really comes from the heart,
Yeah.
right? You said empowerment, helping people empower, making them feel like their heart. I always say, like, let's grow your heart, like, let's grow your
Right.
heart. Because once your heart grows and you can connect to
Yes.
the outcome, it just, and that's why I love what I do because I get to watch others thrive. And right now, I've been fortunate to have people help me thrive in my career, Lori.
Hmm.
And right now, my biggest, passion and what I see happening is like women need to help other women thrive,
Yes.
help each other out, like
We
be kind,
do.
be
We
nice,
do.
like help each other thrive.
And I don't see a lot of that in the dental field. Like where I am is a totally different story. But in the past, I have had situations where I was in like a cutthroat situation where it was, my work was being sabotaged behind my back so that I would get fired or, you know, and that's not how I am, right? Like I'm going to come in, I'm going to be a team player. We're going to support each other. We're going to help each other through this, you
Yep.
know? And we're going to be a team, and whatever you need, I got your back, and I expect the same in return.
Yeah, I had a similar situation where there were two of us women that were high potential women executives, and the senior leader was really kind of pitting the two of us against each other. Oh, look at what this one's doing. Look at this one. You go to the board meeting, you go. And then she got promoted and became my boss. And I was all excited. And Lori, I was like, oh, wow, this is great. I'm going to learn from her. She wanted nothing to do with me. She wanted, because I had been her threat. She wanted, like, she made it so miserable that, like, I was like, I'm out of here. I can't do this.
Uh-huh.
And I've seen
Yes.
women be like, for some reason, I don't understand why women think sometimes, and I've seen it, that there can only be one seat at the table. Like you have to have, why can't we just lift, lift other women up? Now, I'm fortunate at Humana. We have so many wonderful women leaders, and we're all like one big team helping each other out, which is, I've not seen it anywhere else in all of
Mm-hmm.
my career. It's fabulous. Like we're all helping each other and everybody's doing really well. But that's very unique from at least the what I saw in
Oh,
telecommunications.
yeah. I remember the first time I ever had an experience where my work was being self-sabotaged. I was new to a practice, working with another assistant who had been there for a while. And to my face, she was so nice and, came across like she wanted to be my friend. But she would take things that I would say, twist them around, and go tell the doctor, she said this, this, this. Or she would train me on how to set up for a procedure. And then when I would set up for the procedure on my own, she'd wait till like my back was turned and she'd go and she'd mess it all up. So I would go in and I'd be like, it actually, I questioned whether or not I did it or not because I was like, did I do that? Did I mess that up? Like, because I couldn't
Yeah.
believe that that would happen because normal, like, I've been a solo assistant. And I think that that's part of the thing with the dental assistants is that they want to, they feel threatened,
Yeah,
right? They will do what they can to make you look less than so that they can stay above you and ahead of you. But I couldn't believe it. So for the longest time, I felt I worked better solo as a solo assistant because I never had to compete. But for the first time in my career as somebody who's working with another assistant, I finally have a teammate. And I made that very clear when I started is I'm not here to take your job. She's the lead assistant. She's been there 7 years and she's phenomenal.
that's awesome.
And I was like, it's like, I was like, wow, I want to be like her when I grow. And
Well,
it's,
that is, and it's so cool too when you do have women who are like that, so supportive. Because
yeah, I was,
I think it makes my role now so much fun because we're like helping each other out, like, and they're like,
yeah,
you got this, I got this. Oh, I can learn from you over there. And there's
yeah.
no like there's nobody that's like trying to jab at each other,
And
right?
yeah. And furthermore, I don't want to be in her position.
I know.
Like, because she's got a lot of demands on her shoulders. And you know, not that I wouldn't be able to handle it, but it's not my passion and it's not my number one, right? Like it's my full-time job, but then I have this. So it's like I'm good where I am. And and I told her I'm here to support the team and be your teammate, but I am not here to take your job because I don't want it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I don't because she's got a heavy load of responsibility that gets delegated onto her. And I think that she handles it extremely well and she is right where she should be. And
That's
she loves it. And she loves the work. Not that I don't, but my passion is elsewhere. But but I guess I don't let that show on. When I'm there, I'm there.
exactly, exactly.
But I think she's phenomenal and I'm grateful to be in a position where I can work as a team and, you know, just get the job done and do it well.
And I think that's what everybody really wants to do. But there are so many times leaders don't realize how important it is to be able to show that you care and to build that trust. And then, to provide even an opportunity for you to have that, right?
Yeah.
Because it starts there and then it's your peers, right? And then it's
Yes.
being able, and I love that you said, right from the beginning, you set out your intention, right?
Hmm.
Like you set out your intention. And that's another important thing is like speaking up about what your intention is. What do you want to do? Because no one's gonna do that. Like if you do that, you're gonna be now. I would hope that you're not gonna go, I want your job tomorrow, right? But like, boy, I'd like to emulate what you do and learn from XYZ. Like just being that open versus guarded, and that really does open up a conversation and a way of working together, whether it's with your boss, whether it was your peers, it just really helps out a lot.
Yeah. And I think that that is something that I never used to do. I never used to set the intentions or communicate that effectively. I used to be, I never felt comfortable doing it. I was always afraid to. And I was
We
always,
hold back.
and I
We
was
hold back.
afraid to advocate for myself because I didn't want to ruffle feathers or say something, that would be upsetting. But I do recall a time while working with her, there was a total misunderstanding with the scheduling, and she spent like a couple days really mad at me, and I couldn't I knew she was, but I didn't know why. And I just assumed, let it go for now. Give her space, you know what I mean? And just focus on getting the job done. And then when she was ready to talk about it, we talked about it, and I thanked her for bringing that to me. Um, and let her know once again my intention. I'm here just to be a part of your team. This was a misunderstanding. I am by no means trying to come up underneath you and take anything from you. I am just here to be a part of the team and to help. And
Absolutely.
she's like, and we had that great understanding. She goes, and she felt bad because she was like, she felt bad because she didn't want to, she's a good person and a good heart, but she didn't know how to approach it. So it's also, I think, a good when you can set your intentions and also to let them know that it's okay to come talk to you
Mhm.
so that we can work together. That's a part of being a team. And I think that also is what makes us leaders is to be able to say, hey, you know, I felt this way. Let's work through it, to
Yeah.
find that solution so that we can be more effective.
See, it comes down to communication, right? And being okay putting yourself out there, right? Like
Hmm.
I also as a leader, people know that, I have two dogs. Like I need to personalize myself to the team too. That, like I'm not just this person coming in every day that's like, trying to get work done, that I have, a personal life and a husband and that I enjoy going to the beach on the weekends when I can, right? Like,
Hmm.
those are important things, right? They're
Yes.
important for people to know, to get to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. Tracy, I would love to continue the conversation, but we are out of time for today. And we could always bring you back on and go further into this conversation and then some. But if people want to get in touch with you, how is the best way to find you?
Um, the best way to find me is through my LinkedIn or through Instagram. And I would love to connect. And again, I really appreciate the time today with you, Lori. This has been fabulous. And you just make it so easy just to have a conversation. I hope some folks take a little bit of this and can relate and that, makes them feel good. Like we're all here. This life is not easy. But, anything is possible, but we just got to have that open line of communication.
Absolutely, 100%. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank
And
you.
I again think I'm so grateful that you came here today and showered us with this inspiration and enlightenment and and just all overall support, letting us know that our voices are heard and we do matter,
You do.
and continuing to do so through your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So have a great, thank you very much for having me on.
Yes, absolutely. And I will put all of the links in the description of this podcast and how you can connect with Tracy. And if you, would like to connect with me, I would love to be able to have you. I do have all of the social media platforms, but more importantly, I do have a Facebook community that I am growing for women called the She Thrives Together. Please join the community, be a part of it. Let's continue to support each other, thrive together. I appreciate you all. And until next time, let go of fear and let your spirit shine.